welcome back to the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. In this episode, then, there will be reviewing Game Week 32 in the Premier League. We knew before this even begun this game week that it was going to be a big one. There were some big games in there, both at the top, middle, and end of the table. We found out a lot as well after this game week. And I'm joined by an Arsenal fan and a Tottenham fan. A bad week for both, so apologies about the circumstances. Firstly, Arsenal fan in Matt, of course, regular. Great to have you on as always, and apologise in your case for the circumstances after Arsenal defeat against Bournemouth. How are you doing away from that, though?
Nah, there's no need to apologise. It's just football. My team is going for a bad patch at the moment. Hopefully we can salvage that and, and bring one of the big trophies home.
Still in the driving seat and still have had an incredible season to date. And ultimately, there's going to be a blip. It's how you overcome it. Can Arsenal overcome it? Can they keep it on the road compared to the last couple of seasons? It's very difficult to call, I must say. Matt, thank you very much. Mikey, Spurs fan, I would apologise to you, but I think we can just carbon copy it every week. Apologies, and I have no voice at the end of it. So another defeat for Tottenham. New manager, same story. First defeat under Roberto De Zerbi in his first game.
Yeah, it's happened again. I have nothing else to add. I wish I was on this beach, but I'm not. I'm stuck in London watching Spurs lose every week. And the only positive news is that I started a new job today, so that was quite fun. But it was in North London in Arsenal territory, so I got ridiculed for half the shift. So yes, it was fun, but it was also in Hampstead.
Love it. Mikey, pros and cons here, but let me just put on record on behalf of the podcast and myself, congratulations on that as well. Congratulations, you absolutely smash it for sure. Thank you for sharing that. And let's get into it then, reviewing Game Week 32. And it started with a bang. And when I say we found out a lot, I think we did from the first game in terms of the relegation battle that West Ham in particular are highly involved in. Ended West Ham 4, Wolves 0. Didn't see this coming after the first half. Mikey, we'll come to you, if that's okay to start with, because as a Spurs fan, again, we never thought we'd be saying this, would we? At the start, in terms of, we'd be worried about the relegation battle, but West Ham have won already before Tottenham kicked a ball in the relegation zone. So yeah, talk to me about this game, and as a Spurs fan, your emotions behind it.
Well, I never like to see West Ham do well, but they have taken a massive step forward. There's no argument about that. They have really shown that they're in this, and they're here to stay. And you wouldn't bet against them being able to do so. They have great quality up and down the pitch that hasn't been performing at the levels, Jared Bowen aside, but they took the game to Wolves, and I know Wolves have been great in their little kind of mini resurgence since the turn of the year, but this screamed kind of a lot of the Wolves of the beginning of at the beginning of this season, kind of unlucky, maybe going into a game slightly cagey and then ultimately losing it towards the back end. And obviously 4 goals conceded away from home doesn't help. And when you concede a brace to a centre back, it's not a good day at the office for you guys. So unfortunately, Wolves, we knew they were down and out, and their mini resurgence, but even one loss and they were pretty much out of it again. So yeah, they're gone. But as a Spurs fan, this game really couldn't have gone any worse if we had tried. So yeah.
Exactly that, Mikey. Thank you very much. Matt, coming to you then, again, your thoughts on this one, in particular on the fact that, what Mikey's point, do you agree with him with Wolves that after this defeat, that it's not just another defeat for Wolves and the fact that it's even further to catch up. It's also the results, which we'll get into across the weekend, went heavily against them. And one of the teams they would have been chasing is West Ham, and they won. So that's it, isn't it, for Wolves? Any resurgence, any, taking it to the last minute is gone.
Yeah, look, in the first half, I thought Wolves actually did pretty well. I think they actually should have been, 2 or 3 goals up with the chances that they had. And then West Ham punished them, and rightly so. And in the second half, it was all West Ham. And, I go back to what I said months ago, where this West Ham squad, I can't see get relegated, because the fight and the fire that these guys have in every single game that they play, they will find ways to win. They will get wins. I can't see that with a team that we're going to talk about soon. But in terms of Wolves, look, I think their writing was already on the wall, to be honest. I said a couple of weeks ago that their honeymoon patch is coming to an end because their players, are starting to realize that they are going down. And it's sort of just a matter of when, in terms of confirmation, it will happen rather than if they stay up. Because, they'd have to win every single game from now, and Tottenham or West Ham or Forest would have to lose every single game. They just can't see that happening.
Exactly that. I'm fully with you on that. Thank you very much. And we're transition then into the next game. And Matt, I'm going to stick with you. Arsenal 1, Bournemouth 2. Bruising. So 3 defeats in your last 4. And I'm not going to make a joke of it or anything. In all seriousness, are you a little bit worried in terms of April's always a bit of a month that is difficult for Arsenal? It's a real sticky patch, and it's proven that once again. And, ultimately still, let's be crystal clear, you can pretty much, again, I don't like to necessarily say this, but you can pretty much win the title or be in an incredibly comfortable position at the weekend. So I guess it's not whole panic stations yet, but are you a little bit worried after this defeat?
I just want to say, I'm not going to use excuses or deflections. What I will say is the social media team who run their accounts, they don't help the football club. They don't help the fans. They don't help the players in massively overhyping certain games. We saw PSG last season massively hyped by the social media team. And, we had that tifo that was basically a curtain shower. And we just got absolutely rinsed. And I feel like the same thing has happened in this Bournemouth game, where the game was built up so much. The social media team went to town with it all pre-game, and the fans just built the game up so much because of the hype of the social media teams. And the players just weren't ready. And I could see why that they did it, because it's a 12:30 kickoff. It's early in the morning. People aren't really going to be up for it. But I just feel that they didn't need to do that. And we started off really poorly. And Everton, not Everton. Bournemouth, rightly so, got the opening goal. It was poor defensively from us, from various players, from Noni not tracking back, from Ben White not engaging fast enough, and from Miles Lewis-Skelly not being aggressive at the back post to enable that goal to happen. And then we get the penalty, and rightly so. When Gyökeres converts, as he always does. And I thought we would see a bit of fight, and we did towards the end of the half. But at the start of the second half, I just felt that, again, whatever Arteta said in the second half, in the dressing room, didn't work. It did not work. And I got to give credit to him in he was trying to be proactive. He brought on 3 attacking substitutions in Dowman. I think it was, I can't remember the others, but he brought on attacking substitutions like it was Dowman, Martinelli, and I think Jesus. And I can't fault him for that, because he basically threw everything, and he tried to get us the win, and the players let him down. The players let him down absolutely dramatically, because when those 3 subs brought on, it didn't do anything. It didn't do anything, and that's not Arteta's fault. I actually think that's the players' fault, because we were just, funnily enough, we were taking more risks in our own penalty area than in Bournemouth's penalty area or in their half, because there was a moment where we were trying to do like a little rondo drill, like in our own penalty box. That's so risky, and we nearly conceded from it. And I think we just couldn't get the ball to players like Max Dowman, who can drive the opposition players. And I think that was our downfall, to be honest. And Alex Scott, fair play to him. It was a great goal, great finish. And we were royally bent over, really. And we deserved to lose that game. We didn't deserve anything from it. We didn't deserve even a draw. And pre-match, I actually thought that the referee in Michael Oliver would make himself the main man. But in all honesty, he actually refed a good game. But it was just on our players, really. And it's worrying, especially heading into tomorrow, because, we've not got that much rest. Declan Rice wasn't in training today, and that's massive. Whether that's mind games for the weekend, I don't know. But yeah, it's not looking great, and we're at the stage now where our next 2 games in Sporting at home and Man City away are 2 of the biggest games of the last 10, 15 years of the club.
Matt, thank you very much. Appreciate your honesty more than anything. Quick comment then here before we go to Mikey. Liam was just first one in the chat. Big up to him. He says, "Evening, Harry. Haven't been in the chat recently. No worries." He says, "But hopefully you're doing well." I am. Thank you for asking. Hope you're well too. He goes on to say, "Sucks that the Spurs are so bad, but at least we get to enjoy the beginning of Arsenal football." That's what we like. Shamelessly. I mean, I was a bit shameless with my TikToks over the weekend, I must admit. Mikey, yeah, talk to me about this game. Of course, as a Spurs fan, you'd love a result, I'm sure. And well, the weekend started off okay. Forget about the West Ham game. But yeah, what were your thoughts on this game? Because it was Alex Scott who got the goal. Of course, was Spurs through and through.
Spurs fan, yeah. He was very good. A very good game for him. He scores the winner. The Emirates Spurs fan doing that is it must have been a great kind of feeling for him. I was saying like to my mates who are Arsenal fans, like, the Spurs fan does it at the Emirates, and it's really, really good. And Matt, you were talking about the social media team not doing themselves any favors. There's a little thing I wanted to show, which I'm hoping I'll be able to. It's a little thing from Mikel Arteta, who says he's on pure fire. I don't think Arteta helps himself either. I know he's trying to.
This I don't actually mind, because he's trying to motivate the team. He's coming out in this press conference because he's trying to motivate the team, really. But what I'm getting at with the social media element is they made a proper cinematic video of like fight, resilience, stuff like that. And I don't think that helped, pre-game, because that was done on the afternoon, of the morning of the game. So only, a couple of hours before the game, had kicked off. This is, 24 hours or so before the game, and I don't mind this, I don't mind this at all, because, this is a massive game. This is a Champions League game, and, he's well within his rights to try and motivate this team. But I don't think the social media element was trying to motivate the team. I think it was trying to motivate the fans more than anything.
What I'm getting at here is, I think this kind of it. What I'm trying to get at is that Arteta is a good manager within his right, but it's very, as you say, it's very cinematic. It's very. He's trying to drum up the narrative, and that's fair enough. But he's been in this situation time after time after time again. And this isn't me coming as a biased Spurs fan. This is just me coming. He hasn't been able to see it over the line, and I know he's trying to motivate his players, and that's all well and good. But I just think you've been in this situation time after time after time. At what point does it become? At what point do you try and? He's trying not to get in his own head, but I feel like coming out and saying something like this shows that he is a little bit. Because it's very like on the, I don't know what the word is, very attacking in a sense. It's incendiary. There we go. It's massively hyperbolized, and I think that I don't know if that helps his case, because he can't come out and say, "Oh yeah, I hope we're going to win the games." He can't come out and say be meek and stuff. But I don't know if this helps the players themselves. I don't know. I'm not a professional footballer. I don't have the mindset of it. I'm a fan talking on a podcast, but I don't know. I don't know if it helps the players going into the next game because if they don't end up going and winning, I do believe they'll beat Sporting. City is an entirely different question. Whether or not they end up trophyless yet again, and we look back on comments like this and say, "Oh, it's classic Arteta." I'm not saying that as a Spurs fan. I'm saying that as a football fan. At what point does it become just see it over the line and then make these comments?
I mean, I think, I hear you, and I definitely prefer the much calmer, more relaxed Arteta in press conferences. We saw, from October to March time this season, where he was very nonchalant. He wasn't, overreacting. But I do think that's to do with the fact that the players were fired up. The players were ready. In this case, we saw on Bournemouth that the players just aren't ready. The players just aren't fired up. And what he said as well, he said, I am on fire. I am on pure fire. I have zero fear. What he's basically said is that the reason why we lost against Bournemouth was because the players showed fear. He's saying that he doesn't have fear. He's trying to transmit that to the team, I think. I don't know if it's the right way to go about it, but he's a manager that says a lot of things, in front of the cameras to protect his players quite a lot of the time, as we saw in the All or Nothing documentary, but he will hammer the players behind the scenes. I don't know what he would do behind the scenes, but I don't mind this too much.
I mean,
I don't mind it.
I mean, the game itself, again, it was, I don't know where Harry's gone, but the game itself is, it was a good game. I was very, again, I didn't watch it because I was working, but I had a different job. But I had a good kind of see it after the game ended. I had a look and I was like, damn, I wasn't expecting that. And I don't know, watching the highlights, it's just, there was the things that you were doing so well for most of the season seemed to be your undoing. Like that midfield was so compact, so resilient, so combative. And then Alex Scott just strolled through past the defense and then wrong-footed David Raya. Again, it kind of links to this. He's on pure fire. Obviously, Arteta doesn't say we're on fire; it says he's on fire. So it's like
I will say though, right, in your midfield comment, I absolutely agree with you. But I think a lot of this, and I will blame Arteta on this now, was that in the Premier League, he's used Norgard for 50 Premier League minutes or about that. Zubimendi has played about 2,500 Premier League minutes. And I just think with the play Norgard is, he's very composed, he's very relaxed, he can dictate the tempo of the game. He's obviously not a through ball passer player like Bruno is, or Kevin De Bruyne is, but he's a player that will calm the team. And I do think he's been massively underused because, I mean, he was captain of Brentford. He wasn't captain, of a championship team, or anything like that. And I just think that he's kind of been a bit underappreciated from Arteta in that he's really only used him in Carabao Cup and FA Cup games. Like, we've used Max Dowman in the Premier League more than we've used Norgard, and I think that's absolute disrespect to Norgard personally.
I haven't got much to add on. We should probably keep moving on with the
as much as you could discuss it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I lost connection there as well. Thank you for filling the gap there. Appreciate it. Brentford 2, Everton 2 is the next game. Mikey, if I can stick with you on this one. Everton, do you think they'll be really happy with that result? Securing a late equaliser to ultimately mean the late point, and they had 4 games in this one. And also, if you can touch on Brentford as well, because they've drawn quite a few games now. They're struggling for a victory.
I think it's a result that kind of does both of them zero favors, because a win for either of them is crucial for them to continue into European places. They're both fighting for that like Conference League spot along with Chelsea, Brighton. Everyone pretty much down to. There's only 5 points between 7th and 14th, so everyone kind of 7th to 14th could get on a run of form and pipped 7th, and Brentford and Everton are obviously 7th and 8th at the moment. Everton probably needed the win slightly more so than Brentford. I think, again, a lot of draws for Brentford. There's no denying that, 8 draws that easily could have been 16 more points on the board for them, which would have been really, really helpful for them. But then obviously you can say that about like any team. United have 10 draws this season, for example. But I think what stands out about this game is the kind of the attacking display that we saw. Like, we have a lot of, and I'll come to that, especially for the Leeds Man United game. A lot of the games have been quite defensively. There's been a large rhetoric this season in terms of the quality of the Premier League's worse than it's ever been before. It's so defensive. Arsenal's reliance on corners and blaming Arteta for kind of making the league more defensive. But this game was, ends with 2-2. It's a really good attacking display. Igor Thiago scoring yet again, dragging Brentford towards that what's the word? Dragging Brentford towards the European places and dragging himself to be Brazil's starting number 9 at the World Cup playing for Brentford. That I know it's been said a lot on Twitter, but I cannot fathom that happening. It's just insane. But yeah, again, the game itself, amazing for Igor Thiago to score those things, and Dewsbury Hall showing up yet again in a crucial moment for a team playing blue. It was tale as old as time, but. Yeah, I think if Everton had Jack Grealish for the majority of the season, I think they'd be even higher personally. I think he was so key for them before his injury in January. And I think if he'd been able to stay fit, along with the likes of Dewsbury Hall and Beto scoring now, and even someone like Iliman Ndiaye, obviously, and the backup striker, Barry, that's a really good attack. So they would have been higher if Grealish had stayed. I know that for a fact.
100%. I think you're right to mention that. Mikey, thank you very much. Although I think it is just coincidence, but Everton have got a lot better since Grealish has been out. But again, just coincidence. I think it's come together for David Moyes. Imagine him with him playing well right now. Would be really interesting to see how high Everton could get. Mikey, thank you. And just briefly before we move on, Matt, how much credit does David Moyes deserve? Because it looks like Everton are going to be in this battle for Europe until the very end. And I don't know about you, but I give them a very high chance of getting Europe over some of the clubs above them, even in Brentford, who struggling for a win at the moment. Mikey is right to highlight some positives of Brentford, but in reality, they can't get a win, and also Chelsea is slipping.
Look, with Everton, I think they're going to get Europa League, potentially Champions League, and I think it will come down to the upcoming game that they're going to play in the Merseyside derby, whether they've got the minerals. But David Moyes has been just incredible. And I think West Ham are absolutely kicking themselves for getting rid of him. Because, yes, the fans weren't happy about his play style, but you've had him for 3, 4, 5 years. Like, he won you a European trophy. You've not won a major trophy for like 60 years, 60, 70 years. You've got to appreciate that. And I think that West Ham probably took David Moyes for granted a bit and booted him out. And he's gone to Everton and he's absolutely killed it, really. I think when we played them a couple of weeks ago, it took a kid to win us that game. But they were very compact. They were very good defensively. And Everton have always been, a very good defensive side, but David Moyes has just made them that further secure, that better defensively. And they're going to be a hell of a team to break down next season if they stick with David Moyes, which they should.
Absolutely should. Thank you very much. Can I stick with you then? Burnley 0, Brighton 2. I mean, we've been saying it for a while. We think that Burnley are highly likely, if not certain, to go down. But for Brighton, if we focus on them for this segment, huge result again. And they're flying, aren't they, right now, under Fabian Herzler?
Brighton, if I'm correct in saying this, are the most informed team in the league if we go past the past 3 games in the Premier League. And they're at a point now where they're in the Brentford and the Everton territory, where they could be fighting for European football. So I don't think their season is done yet. Not at all. And I think that, yes, it's against Burnley, but Burnley at home are genuinely quite of a solid team in terms of defensively. It's just when they go away, they just get battered. But I thought Brighton dispatched them very comfortably, and it was a professional result, or a professional performance is what I would call that, in that they just brushed them aside, quite nicely. And they got a big game at the weekend as well that we might preview as well.
Certainly have, indeed. You're right to say that. Thank you. Moving on to the next game, then, not too much to say about that one. Mikey, Liverpool 2, Fulham 0. And Matt used a great phrase there earlier with that previous game in terms of being professional and getting the job done. I mean, look no further than this with Liverpool, and that's something you haven't been able to say about this side a lot this season or in 2026. Liverpool, thorough performance and getting the job done.
It just seemed to click for them in this game. It was firstly, I want to say what a goal from Rio Ngamoa. That beautiful. He's done the defender twice, fainted and curled, a beauty. That angle on the goal from behind the goal is absolutely insane. It's such a beautiful goal. This kid's going to go, to quote Harry Redknapp, right to the very top. And I'm so excited for him as an England fan. Fulham just were kind of there. It wasn't a vintage performance. Like, both teams had the same amount of shots. Liverpool had one more on target. It was just kind of, and Fulham had like way more corners. It was quite a, not a standard 2-0 win. On another day, it could have gone another way, as Barney in the chat is saying. But on another day, it could have been someone else's game. And a 2-0 win isn't anything to be sniffed at, especially when you've got a goal of that caliber. It was good to see Mo Salah back on the score sheet, and then he gets benched for this game tonight against PSG, which is quite interesting. So, Cody Gakpo again starting, again being ineffective. I don't know when Arne Slot's going to wake up and realise that Gakpo is not the solution to their problems. He had Isak on the bench. He had Ekitike on the bench. Isak only came on Isak didn't really do much when he came on. He came on the 70th minute, and he had Ekitike, and he still started Cody Gakpo. I don't see it. I've never seen it with Gakpo. And Barney's a Fulham fan. He's watched more games than I have. He's summarised it very well in the chat as the messages keep popping up. But yeah, there's not really much more to say on that game. But again, the biggest hope is just what a goal from Ngamoa. I can't praise that goal enough. It's beautiful.
Absolutely that, and what a talented young kid he is. Yeah, Barney in the chat, a Fulham fan, he said, we did a Fulham, created enough chances and massive missed opportunities to get something from an indifferent Liverpool side. Going on to say, I can't tell you guys how many times I've sat there and said, here we go, absolutely, that's why we won't get Europe, sadly. You've been saying the same thing for a long while. You're right, I think, Barney. Going on to say last year that we play well, yeah, sure, that's good, but we lack consistency and clinical edge all too often. Thank you, Barney, and we look forward to having you back on the Scarfey Talks Premier podcast in the next week or two. Matt, coming to you then on Rio Ngamoa. I mean, what a talented young kid he is, right? You talked about Max Dalman earlier, incredibly talented as well. And we were talking about really exciting young players. And sitting there as a Spurs fan hosting it, I think we have some really talented in Luca Williams-Barnett, 17 years of age, but just isn't given an opportunity. So do you think Slot, of course, gets a lot of criticism this year, and a lot, I think we all agree, some of it anyway, warranted and understandable, let's just say. But do you think he deserves credit for giving this kid a lot of minutes?
No, I don't think he deserves credit, because I think Rio has earned these minutes. He's deserved these minutes. And if any manager was there, I'm pretty sure they would have played him. And if anything, I actually think he's not played him enough in the Premier League, especially when a couple months ago, when Liverpool were really struggling, where Salah weren't doing anything, Ekitike weren't doing anything, Wirtz weren't doing anything, and they just sort of left him on the bench. They didn't even bring him on for a 5 to 10 game span in the Premier League. So no, I don't think he does deserve any credit, to be honest. But just quickly on the play, I think he's phenomenal. And I don't think he should be going to the World Cup, but I think him and Max should be in the England 21 squad in the summer, because there's no reason for them to be in the under 19 squad when they're playing Premier League football, essentially, at the highest level.
Yeah, 100%.
I think he's such a good player, and what I see from him, I agree with you. So there's a YouTuber I watch called FNG. He's a Liverpool fan, and he's been making quite a lot of Liverpool videos recently. And he's every single time he talks about this is why I mentioned Cody Gakpo. I started watching Gakpo after hearing FNG talk about him. Gakpo really does nothing. He starts on the left wing, and he's played, I think, some of the most minutes. He's benched Salah, he's benched Ekitike, who's been arguably their form player alongside Szoboszlai, and he's not playing. And I'm not saying that again. He's 17, 18. You don't want to burn him out. You see these young Brazilian stars who play 100 games before they turn 20, and then they've faded out by the end of 30, a la circa Neymar, for example, or Ronaldinho. But I'm not saying, but he should have been given more minutes. He's not like he's not
just turned 16.
No, Gakpo isn't. It's not like Max Dowman where you have to manage those minutes so carefully, or it's not like from a couple of seasons ago, Jeremy Monga, for example, at Leicester. He's built enough and he's scoring goals. It's not a quality issue. It's just the fact Arne Slot has his favourites, and I just cannot fathom at this point in his stage a 17-year-old Ngamo is a better player than Cody Gakpo right now. On form, on ability, it looks like it. Your Gakpo is not playing well, and to not start, and for today against PSG to start a front three of Isak, Ekitike, and Wirtz, I think is the front three. And again, N'Gamoa going up against Achraf Hakimi is not a battle I think N'Gamoa wins. I don't know if Hakimi's starting. I assume he is, but just few more minutes. It's just there is no reason why Arne Slot couldn't have played him more than he has. So I don't think I think again, I agree with Matt. He's been a little bit more of a hindrance than credit after scoring a winner against Newcastle earlier this season. After scoring that goal, is he going to get more minutes? I don't know. Maybe Arne Slot's trying to manage his minutes, but I think he could have played more than he has. To put it that way.
Yeah, Mikey, thank you. And thank you both for your answers on that. Matt, can I please come back to you for the next game then? Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Palace turn it around to win 2-1, and John Philip Mateta back in favour with Palace fans, back on the score sheet. Do you think they've missed him, and do you think he could be the real difference now to mean that Palace continue to pick up points because they've dragged themselves away from any prospect of being dragged into now a relegation battle?
This was an incredible result for them, and I think that they're in a really weird situation, Crystal Palace, where I can't see them get in Europe because they're about 5 points off, and the other teams above them, will just keep on winning, I think. And I believe that they're very safe from relegation because I think 39 points will be enough. So they're in a bit of a free-fall situation, but it's an incredible result for them. I didn't expect it at all. I thought that Newcastle were going to win, after their thoroughly disappointing result in the side time where, I don't know how you say it, in their derby that they had with Sunderland, I thought that they would, rock up and smack Crystal Palace, but they didn't. And credit to Philippe Mateta because he scores a brace. And he's back. And Crystal Palace are going to have a interesting end to the season where I think they're going to disrupt a few teams that they're going to play.
I totally agree with you. A big result for Crystal Palace. But Mikey, for Eddie Howe, that's just increased the pressure on him. And you hear several reports saying that Eddie Howe has the back in at least until the end of the year. But I don't know about you, but I have the feeling personally that they could part ways in the summer. It's been a difficult season for the Magpies.
I think it's coming to... most Premier League fans, when he was appointed, understood that his appointment, barring a minor miracle, would be not a stopgap because he was appointed after, obviously, after I think they sacked Steve Bruce, brought in Eddie Howe. I think he surprised people at how successful he's been. He stayed as long as he has. I think it was it looked from the outside looking in like it was get a good Premier League operator, stabilize the club, get them up challenging, and then kind of move from there. And Eddie Howe's done a commendable job. Obviously, qualifying for the Champions League in that unfortunate draw, getting drawn against in that group of death against PSG, Dortmund, and I think it was not Inter. It was someone else. They had that group of death, and they were unfortunate to finish bottom of that, despite obviously thrashing then an Mbappe-inspired PSG for that would go on to win the Champions League the season after. That's no small feat, but I think they've kind of reached their glass ceiling under Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe, the resources they have, the players they have. I'm not saying Eddie Howe's a bad coach. He's not. Before Tuchel came in, he was my pick for the England job. I wanted Howe as the England manager. Obviously, we've got Tuchel now, but I wouldn't be surprised to see how replace Tuchel at some stage. I think someone in the chat said Iraola joining Newcastle. I think that's a very realistic option. And I do think Iraola tactically is a better manager than Howe. I think he's got more about him, and if he had the players to do so, that would be really good. Again, I said Iraola's pressing style. I mentioned pre-recording that him with that midfield of Newcastle would be insane, and I stand by that of Tonali, Joelinton, and obviously Bruno Guimaraes. But for Crystal Palace, I think they're doing all they can to ensure that their kind of 12th to 14th streak stays alive. You know, they were under threat from kind of dropping down to maybe 15th if Leeds got a good result, and they've stabilised themselves for their regular heights of 13th position, and what I wouldn't give for that as a Spurs fan right now. But I think they're doing all they can to make sure that they finish in that mid-table position that they're so good at finishing in. And for Newcastle, they're stuck in 14th. They're not anywhere near the relegation zone, and on another day they could have won. But Mateta's back, and he's shown up at the moment. I wonder if he stays beyond the summer. I don't necessarily know, but it's a good result for Palace, and they've now got their quarterfinal against Fiorentina to look forward to, which they're obviously going to win. They're 3-0 up, and barring again a major miracle in this case, they'll still go through. So yeah, it's been good for Palace. I like Palace, so I'm happy to see that they're doing well.
They're certainly doing well, and you're right. They're still on for their 12th place, customary finish, if you like. And always thought Palace that they could and should do even better, and they've had some really good times under Glasner. Don't get me wrong, they've surpassed any expectation. I'm not saying that, but I just feel like with him there, particularly with the players they've got now, after what they've done in January, this team could go so far. But of course, it's not staying beyond the season, so we'll never really know. And I'm talking about players like Evan Gus, some big players that they've signed. But Mikey, sticking with you, Sunderland 1, Tottenham 0. We spoke about it briefly in the intro. What have you seen from that? I mean, I know there's a lot of negatives at the moment because Tottenham are in the relegation zone, 2 points adrift, and we get onto it. But Forest got a point, Leeds 1, and you get West Ham winning as well. So in terms of the relegation battle, it couldn't have been any worse for Tottenham. But have you seen any positives for you, or just the same continuation under a third manager?
It's reminded me a little bit of our last few games where there's been I don't think currently we are as bad as we were mid-February or early March. There's been, again, positive signs ever since that Liverpool game. We got the 1-1 draw. We beat Atletico. And then in that Forest game, we were on top. We were playing really well until Forest scored. And then we obviously capitulated. No excuse for that. And even in the game against Crystal Palace, before the drubbing for Atletico, we were 1-0 up. And then Van der Ven gets a red card and we go 3-1 down before halftime. It's little fine margins. And again, the commentators for Sky Sports, who I think had an absolute mare against like the referee, and again, we are Spurs fans. We are inclined to be of a certain persuasion. I haven't seen a worse refereeing performance in a very since last week, actually. Such is the nature of the Premier League at the moment. But again, it was so unlucky, the goal we conceded, that when your luck is down, it's down. When it rains, it pours. And that is... I don't think we go on to win that game personally. I think that ends a 0-0 draw. That being the only goal of the game kind of sums it up. We had a few chances, some headers, a couple of good opportunities. And for the first 15, 20 minutes, we were actually doing quite well. And then we allowed the crowd, which are Sunderland's 12th man. They are the biggest asset the Sunderland have, is that crowd, to kind of get them going again. And every opportunity that Sunderland had to score, there was some reason I didn't think about it. Whether Brobby should have been on the pitch or not, people changed their opinion on that. I personally think it was an accumulation of everything, but there was no one individual element which should have given him a red card. I think it's more of an accumulation of things that could have had him sent off. But then again, caused the injury to Cuti Romero is a bad one. I'm sure you'll come on to that at some point to define our season. But yeah, I watched the game. Sadly, I was free that day, so I did pop down to the pub and watch that game. And the goal sums up Spurs. Like, that can go anywhere, and it pops right into the bottom corner. It's a horrible deflection. Son Mukiele's weaker foot. That initial shot is definitely going wide. From the camera angle we saw from the back, it's definitely going wide, or at least a player of Kinski's quality, who I think had his best game in a Spurs shirt against Sunderland. Well, not his best, one of his best games. That first against Liverpool comes to mind as well. But he had one of his best games in a Spurs shirt in recent memory, although there haven't been many. And it's unfortunate that of all things, followed by the injury to Romero, Kinski looking like he's wrapped up. He's got blood in his hair. It's just luck. We haven't been good, but Lady Luck doesn't shine brightly on us at the moment.
Absolutely, and as a Spurs fan as well, as you know, I completely agree with everything you said there, Mikey. I think you're absolutely right in terms of, even with like Kinski, you're right, a positive performance, but you're right to say these things sum Spurs up, and that's what I was going to ask you about. All these things that happened across the weekend. Firstly, with that game, the fact that the goal was deflected, which completely changes the direction. The fact that Romero and Kinski have come together, which means Romero's out for the season. Kinski's got a bandage around the head and blood all over his head and could be out against Brighton. There's so many things you look at and just go, goodness me, what has happened here? But yeah, can I ask you, about Robbie? You mentioned it there, and again, do you think he knows what he's doing for that incident in particular?
Oh, yeah. I don't think...
And also Romero being out for the season. Is that a blow?
I don't think Robbie has intended to injure Christian Romero. Intent in football doesn't mean as much as it used to. But you can be sent off for a follow through even if you get the ball. Now, but like, intent doesn't mean as much as it used to. I don't think he intends to. Firstly, I want to say first and foremost that Argentinian and Spurs fans are racially abusing Brian Brobby is completely it's completely disgusting. There's no defending that. You don't attack someone just for being who they are. You can disagree with their actions, but you don't come at them just for that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's completely disgusting, both to Spurs and Argentine fans who attacked him for just being for his skin color, but also I think again he could have been like the elbow on Porro. Porro's made a meal of it. I'm sorry, he has. He's gone down. It hurts. It doesn't hurt that much. It's not an intentional elbow. Robbie isn't trying to injure Cuti Romero. He's not trying to injure to knock out Kinski with a concussion potentially. He didn't have a concussion, but what it looked like a concussion originally, to injure Cuti Romero's MCL, which looks like it will keep him out until just before the World Cup, according to one of the Roberto Ayala, one of Argentina's support staff. But when you take the referee's decisions, it looks odd, and that's why I think it comes from the referee having other badges like that foul when Udogi's through 1-on-1 and just gets pushed off the ball. I think that's a yellow card, because you had in the Leeds Man United game, which we're going to find out, you had Lisandro Martinez. Obviously, it's a pull of the hair, but it's not the same situation. If that's a red card, Udogi not being being given as a foul, there was some suspect. Every little minor thing, a Spurs player commits a minor foul on a Sunderland player, that's game stopped. A Sunderland player commits a foul on a Spurs man, it's either it's given as advantage, or there's no card given. It was little suspect things that lead people to then lash out at the referee's other decisions, including the Brian Brobby incident. And Romero being out for the season is going to hamper us. I like Kevin Danzo. I really do like Kevin Danzo. I've been one of his biggest praises. I think he's absolutely class. I really do like him. If it was Dragusin, different story, but I think Danzo is good enough to come in for 6 games, 1 game a week. It's not too much. And again, every game becomes a cup final. I don't think we'll stay up now. I think we had to win against Sunderland. We've got Brighton, who, as Matt so lovingly pointed out, are the most informed team in the league in the last 3 games. And we have a horrible home record. So I don't see anything other than a loss. But, De Zerbi's tactical ingenuity against his former club, Maybe it comes to the fore, maybe it doesn't. Who knows? But I have a feeling that Danny Welbeck will be licking his lips, looking at a potentially injured Kinski or even a Brandon Austin coming in, and yeah, I don't have hope. I don't have hope. And
No.
Romero, our captain, being out again, it's just of all the players, not even by ability, but the captain to be injured in such a crucial run in. One of the only players who's kind of got that fight in him. I know it hasn't looked like it, but he's a player who plays with his heart on his sleeve most of the time. I don't know where we go from here. I think bringing on Xavi Simons so late in the game.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, Mattis Tell not starting. I think Solanke was ineffective. Richarlison looked the most likely to score, but even then, all his shots are straight at the keeper. You've got to find a front three that works, and with Mattis Tell being the only player who can play on the wing naturally at the moment, until I reckon you might see a Madison 10, Xavi on the left, Tell on the right, and Richarlison up top for a couple of games when eventually Madison is fit to play. I don't know if he's even fit to start this season, but when he is eventually fit to play minutes, I think that would be a good front four. But yeah, it sucks. What a bad result for us.
Okay, thank you, Mikey. Very, very quickly, if that's okay, before we get to Matt. Question here from Liam, because the referee, although you're right, a lot did go against Tottenham, did give us a penalty, which is overturned by VAR. I think that you'll agree with the VAR decision. Again, I suppose it does support your point that the referee had a really bad game, or even though he gave it to us. But yeah, Liam's asking that more on if however it's a penalty or not. I mean,
you'll see some of those given and some of those not. That's more a problem with the referee and inconsistency than it is with that singular decision. A lot of it just comes back to a wider refereeing problem, which we've been saying season after season, ever since VAR's introduction. We've been saying it season after season. You could justify a wrong call without VAR by saying, it's a matter of opinion. You'd accept it and move on. You'd moan about it, but you wouldn't be, unless a referee has a stinker game after game after game, you wouldn't be coming back to it. But we keep coming back to it game after game week, and it's just so annoying. It's so repetitive, but it can't be dropped because it's an institutional problem in the PGMOL. I don't think it's a penalty, right? But the fact that they had to go to VAR to give something that I could clearly see from the foul, I was shocked. I thought he pointed for a corner. And then when players resumed, we should have had a corner, and it's given as a drop ball to Sunderland when it realistically should have been a corner. That's, again, refereeing procedural problems. It has to be given as a drop ball. But the action before he called the penalty, the ball was out for a corner anyway. So if it's not given as a penalty, you just play on from the moment the ball goes out. But it's given as a Sunderland drop ball. It's little things like that I don't understand that leads to such criticism of the refereeing procedures in this country. And it's not just English referees. The La Liga referees are equally as bad. They are horrendous as well. Bundesliga referees are quite good, but it's just refereeing, just UEFA in general, that there has to be some kind of look into it. But I don't think it was personally a foul. But it's kind of what happens after, and then it's just an accumulation of these little decisions. It's just so boring to talk about. Refereeing week after week.
The best referee in the entire world is Leandro Trossard's cousin, who is called like Turpin or something. He's been voted as the best referee in back-to-back years, and there's a reason he don't play in the Premier League, because he'd have to do this stupid agenda of listen to VAR, stuff like that. And he would have none of it. He would have absolutely none of it. And he's reffed a lot of my Champions League games, and he's been very fair. Win or lose or draw, he's been very fair, very, very fair.
I have not just noticed Clement Turpin does look a lot like Leandro Trossard.
Yes.
I've just noticed that.
We got like a running joke in our fan base where it's like, oh, we got Trossard as referee. This should go well. But yeah.
It is just so annoying to talk about week after week. But anyway, let's What
I do want to say on this game though, on that penalty incident is, I don't think it was a penalty, but I think the Sunderland player was very stupid in the way he actually went into the tackle, because there was no need for him to do that.
Yeah.
Because his other defender was already shifting the ball out. And I just think that was really unnecessary. And they actually got quite lucky that he didn't, make contact with, a lot of the player.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your honesty on that. And if I can stick with you, that's all right, Matt. Forest 1, Aston Villa 1. And for Forest in particular, do you think that's a very big point?
Yes, and I didn't actually watch this game because I was watching the Tottenham game. But I was getting notification on my phone with Villa have missed a massive chance. They were missing chance after chance. Watkins, Rodgers, they were all missing big chances. And that's a massive point for Forest because they're not struggling for points, but they're getting draws here and there. They're not really getting many wins. They've got 3 draws in their last 4 games. So they are picking up points, but just slowly. And I guess, if Tottenham, are not winning games, then it doesn't really matter if they pick up draws, instead of wins. But I do kind of feel that they need a win now. They do need a win. They got Sunderland away next, and it's a tough game, big game that is for them. But I thought that they played pretty well against Aston Villa.
They've got Burnley first. Sorry, Forest have got Burnley first.
Have they? Oh, apologies.
They play Burnley first and then Sunderland away. Then they've got those really massive.
Well, I mean, if they've got Burnley, then they should get the 3 points. But
and then they've got Sunderland, Chelsea, Newcastle United, and Bournemouth. So they've got an insane run towards the end of the season.
They've got some hard games. So I think they need to get, a positive result from Burnley and from Sunderland. I think if they beat Burnley and draw to Sunderland, that's 4 points. They'll be on 35 points. That's not enough still. That's not enough for guaranteed safety, in my opinion. But Nico Williams, what a finish, by the way. What an absolute finish. And Martin, and it was Bizot had no chance. No chance with that shot. It was a great finish.
It totally was. Thank you very, very much. Huge point for Forest. Mikey, come to you. Chelsea 0, Man City 3. Of course, I'm going to ask Matt about this as an Arsenal fan who'll be closely watching the City, but we'll start with you, Mikey. Your thoughts on this one? Chelsea again, another poor result under Liam Rossina.
His aging men have done it again. I think genuinely, it is a bizarre result to see because I wasn't expecting 3-0. I wasn't expecting that much of a whitewash, to be honest. I think when you looked at the lineups, you're thinking, okay, they've actually got a semi decent chance of equating to City, and City just in the second half just said, thank you very much. Those are the 3 points. We'll be taking those and heading back to Manchester. It was a performance and I don't want to alarm anyone. I'm not going to start leading to mass hysteria and say that Arsenal are going to bottle the title because you can't say that. You can't say that when they're 3 points clear, but obviously 3 points clear, whatever. But obviously they play City this weekend. That game decides the title. I think whoever wins that game wins the title. But this was a performance of a Man City team of a couple of seasons ago in the run-in when they have a difficult game and they just show up, they play their game, and they just sweep aside anyone in their path, apart from their direct challenge, obviously, because they'll play them this weekend at home as well. But it reminded me very much of a 22, 23, 23, 24. It's the run-in. We're going to go on this run, and we are just going to get what we need to do and get it done. There's no... For this team, losing is not an option. They don't know what that means. In this stage of the season, it's win or die. And they, it reminded me of an old kind of couple of seasons ago, Pep dragging them screaming. And Haaland didn't even score. Haaland didn't even score this game. And I think that if City can win 3-0 without Haaland scoring, that shows kind of how good they were in this game. And I don't want to say it. I'm not going to say it because I can't. This weekend matters in the title race more than any other weekend. But if I was Arsenal, I would be worried after this result. I would. And that leads into that.
I just want to speak on Chelsea really quickly because I want to go back to a decision that Rossini made where he suspended Enzo Fernandez, I think, for 2 games or 3 games. That has essentially fucked up their Champions League hopes, because that was a game that they needed Enzo Fernandez, a player in the pockets that could really penetrate Man City. And they didn't have him because Rossino wanted to stick to his guns and most, which is fair enough. But I think, where do you draw the line in just pull the player aside into your office and say, look, I don't like the way that you've said some things about the club, but we're fighting for Champions League football here. And Chelsea could be in serious financial trouble if they don't get Champions League football. They'll have to sell some of their star players or top academy players. And I just feel that they're now 4 points off of top 5. I just think they've blown it. I think they've blown it absolutely completely. And just quickly onto Man City. Yeah, you're right. Haaland didn't score, and they still beat him 3-0. And I think that was the thing that shocked me, was that they won 3-0 and they didn't need Haaland's help. He was basically a passenger in that game, if anything, because he didn't do much. But pre-game, I genuinely thought Man City would beat them 4-0, and I thought Haaland would score a hat-trick, because I knew that Enzo Fernandez weren't playing, and I knew that that decision was going to cost them that match. And they can play Palmer, they can play Esteban, they can play Joao Pedro, but if they've not got Enzo Fernandez in that midfield, I don't think they're going to dominate many games. I don't think they're going to win many games. And I think you'll see when he comes back into the team. I don't know who Chelsea have got next. They got Man United next. Watch Enzo Fernandez come back into that team, and I think they'll give Man United a hide, and I reckon it'll be 2-3-0. But what was I say? Yeah, so I kind of predicted Man City to batter them, and I don't like this player because he's very entertaining to watch. He is a class player to watch, but he's one of those players that if he's not on your team and he's playing against you, you absolutely hate him because he's just shithousery and he just doesn't give a fuck. And that's Ryan Cherki. I think Man City, I can't believe they paid 35 million euros for that kid, for that guy, because he is a baller. He's the definition of a street footballer, and I'd love to have that in my team, and I think we might have that in Max Dowman. But with Cherki, I think, like, what can't this guy do? He entertained to a point where even the fans are just getting pissed off at him because he's just taking the piss. But I like that. Like, if he was on my team, I like that because he's a player that don't care. He doesn't care about feelings, emotion. He's just there to play football.
But while still playing well, like, my thing is, Richarlison does all this type of stuff, but sometimes doesn't put the performance on the pitch.
Richarlison, no. Richarlison, he's different to Cherki. And what I mean by that is, Cherki, I'm not even joking when I'm saying this. Yes, I'm only 24, but I think Ryan Cherki is the most technically gifted footballer I've ever seen in the Premier League. And people can say, Eden Hazard, Sanchez, but this guy's a level above. I mean, like, you look at what he does in his warm-ups, he just smashes the ball up in the air, touches it down, dead. The ball is dead when he touches it. And stuff like that, I mean, like, not many players can do it. Maybe Messi, maybe Ronaldo can do that. But I doubt even them can do that, because on a technical level, Cherki's better than them. But, in terms of football, obviously they're, levels above. But Cherki, man, what a player. And that ball to Mark Gahey was just superb. And I think that's probably one of the assists of the season in terms of how composed and how assured that pass was. It was he got it through 18 players. That pass broke 18 players in that box, and it found Gahey, and Gahey finished that off brilliantly. And if City do win the league, I think Cherki is absolutely pivotal to them winning it.
Totally agree.
Oh, Yamal's already scored again against Barcelona. Oh dear.
Oh wow.
Just really quickly, I don't know if you've heard what Diego Simeone said about Yamal. He was like, "I'm putting 4 to 6 players on Yamal because
if you look at the defensive
he's hard to
lineup,
mark."
it's not good defensive, but he's not put out a good defensive lineup. There's a lot of top players on the bench. I don't know what the thinking is there from Atletico. Already 1 down inside 10 minutes. So
Yeah,
I'm surprised by the bench.
I don't know that. I mean, if I'm playing Barcelona and I get through to Sporting, I'm excited about that because they play Highline. But yeah,
I'm actually low key a little bit pissed off because I really wanted to watch this second leg, but because obviously it's in the UK, I have Amazon Prime. I don't have TNT or Sky. I have Amazon Prime. They picked the Liverpool PSG game, which is already a foregone conclusion.
Yeah,
I really wish
I wish they just through Discovery, and they've ended that subscription, haven't they? And moved over to HBO Max. So
I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Never heard it.
Changed it, so I can't watch it anymore. You have to have TNT Sports or HBO Max, and I usually watch it through Discovery and pay for it, obviously. And now you can't. So
you had to specify you have to pay for it.
Oh, there'll be someone, Mikey, that will be quick to say, "Oh,
yeah,
how did you find that?" Yeah, there's always someone.
Genuinely, yeah. Sorry, just on the Rayan Cherki thing. I was when you said the most technically, I was ready to jump in and be like, all right, but you said in the Premier League. I was happy.
Yeah, of course.
I was like, okay. I mean, no, I agree with you. I think in current natural ability, I think he's top 5 in the world. Obviously, you take out Lionel Messi and Neymar, who are probably the two most talented players on the planet. They're just their levels above. But yeah, like playing in the top 5 in a major European league, I can think of Lamine Yamal. Obviously, Lamine Yamal is kind of the benchmark for everyone at this point. Apart from him, I'd challenge someone to name me someone more technically gifted than Rayan Cherki. I do, because he's insane.
Yeah,
genuinely insane. Love watching him play.
So we've got one more game to review and a little chat about a manager's future that was confirmed today. We'll leave that in suspense if we haven't heard.
I enjoyed this match.
It was such a good game. It
was. I'll ask you both about it. Don't worry. So Man United won, Leeds 2. Crazy game. So I start with you, Matt. Yeah, talk to me about your thinking there. You said that it was a really good game and Leeds United ultimately hanging on to that victory. And you saw at the end the reaction of the Leeds players, but particularly Daniel Farke, just how much that win meant.
Yeah, I just want to quickly speak on Man United, before I praise Leeds. Man United, absolutely disgusting of what performance they put in. And by that, like they had basically a month off. They had a month off. And I know that's a long time to wait for a football match, but you surely got to be more prepared. You surely got to be more sharp and more fitter, more, focused than Leeds, who spent 120 minutes against West Ham last week in a quarter-final of the FA Cup. They went to penalties, and they won. But you've got to think, what the heck was Michael Carrick doing with that Man United squad for the whole month? Because he had so much time to prepare for that game, so much time. And yeah, it was just, I mean, they needed that red card to happen because I think Leeds would have bopped them 3 or 4-0. They were so much better when that red card happened. They were more focused. They were more sort of, onto every ball. They were playing more forward, more forward thinking. But before the red card, they were atrocious. They were absolutely atrocious. And Ahmad looked like the worst player I've seen in a Man United shirt this season. He looked awful. And it's like,
I want to throw in Manuel Ugarte into that equation.
Right, yeah. Manuel Ugarte as well was absolutely
horrendous. It was awful again.
Yes, yeah, indeed. And Casemiro was, but obviously he scored. But with Leeds, I was very, very impressed with them because I thought they were going to get mauled. I thought it was going to be 5-0 to Man United because, this is I don't know if it's a rival match or if it's a derby match. I don't know which one it is, but
it's a massive derby for Leeds fans. It's their biggest. Leeds, like Man United have
huge. But players I don't know if the players are up for it as much as the fans are, but wow, Leeds, yeah, very impressive performance. I thought Okafor took his second goal brilliantly. I love that goal, absolutely brilliant into the bottom corner. And it's a question of now, that game, surprisingly, because I don't think anyone expected that result, puts incredible pressure on the likes of West Ham, Nottingham Forest, of Tottenham to, get points now, because you've now got Crystal Palace, who have already, secured safety, in my opinion. You've now got Leeds, who I think Leeds have got 39 points. Or am I wrong in saying that? Leeds have 36. So they're only they're only 3 points away from, safety, in my opinion. And I mean, 6 points over Tottenham. That's huge for Leeds in terms of their mentality heading into the next remaining games.
They've got to play as well.
Yeah, knowing that they've got a 2-game buffer to a relegation place.
Yeah, they'll be okay.
To be honest, though, a couple months ago, I actually thought Leeds were nowhere near a relegation fight, but they slowly crept into one, and I think that result has got them out of it, in my opinion.
I think it's true.
Yeah, and look, I do want to speak about the red card because now my boss at work, he's from Manchester, and he's a massive Man United fan, and he was like, "No, it's not foul. It's not a red card." But it is a red card because hair pulling it's almost as bad as like hacking someone's knee, because you're just not allowing them to do anything, right? And we saw something similar, various other times. We saw a couple of years ago when Romero pulled Cucurella's hair, he got sent off, and it was Conte versus who was it? Conte versus someone, Tuchel, that was it. And we got that iconic, head to head with them. And we also saw it last season, and we also saw it this season in a women's game with Arsenal versus Chelsea. And it's always been a foul, and it's always been a red card offence. Like, I don't know how some Man United fans are saying we've been cheated because they gave a red card for that. No, it's absolutely a red card, and it's kind of irrelevant what Calvert-Lewin did to Lisandro Martinez because Lisandro Martinez made a red card offence. But I thought that was the right decision, and I actually applaud VAR for that, for actually telling the referee to stop the game and to review that challenge, because I think the referee just did not see it. I don't think I saw it. And then when it went to review, obviously we all saw it. And yeah, no complaints from Man United surely about that.
Absolutely that. Mikey, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, he covered everything I was going to say, but yeah, it was a really poor performance from United. It's 100% a red card. There's no way you can say it isn't. And I don't like how, I love it when a derby win ends in an underdog victory, because this is the first time Leeds have beaten United at Old Trafford since 1981, which is in 45 years. That's incredible. And I don't think people understand just how big of a derby this actually is. It's massive, especially for Leeds. Leeds consider Man United their main rival. Obviously, United have City and Liverpool, and they're a massive club, so of course they have kind of rivalries with the bigger clubs. Apologies to any Leeds fans, but Leeds consider this it's their eternal derby. They hate Man United, especially after Cantona and Ferdinand. So I am firmly of the opinion that this should get more respect as a game than it does, and I'm very happy. Again, not from a relegation perspective, but I am so happy that Leeds won this game, because I again, I love an underdog derby win, and this, if for that, was definitely a red card. Okafor, however you say his name, brilliant performance, 2 amazing goals, and it should have been 3 before halftime. Tanaka missing that gilt-edged chance with Martinez sliding in to save the day. He should have took it past. He should have taken it past Onana. Should have just slotted it. Onana, sorry, Lomans, my bad. Should have just slotted it into the corner as early as he could. But either way, it's a great win for Leeds, and I think that kind of seals them away from the relegation battle. It's now Forest, West Ham, and Spurs, I think, because Spurs have to play Leeds. So if Spurs win against Leeds, it could drag them into it, but I don't see that being a win. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, Leeds are on their way.
Absolutely huge win for Leeds United. And to end then, guys, so Bournemouth's manager Iriola will leave the Cherries at the end of the season by mutual consent after 3 seasons there. Mikey, first season has come as any surprise to you? And this is a big manager, isn't it? Now available on the market.
Not really. It doesn't really come as a surprise to me. And I think so Fulham have Marco Silva, who's out of contract. I think Bournemouth could do a lot worse than go for Marco Silva. I reckon that could be a good appointment if Barney's still watching. I don't know if he'll like that idea of that appointment, but I think definitely I think Marco Silva, if he leaves Fulham, could go to Bournemouth. And I think Iriola, again, he'd be my pick for the Newcastle job. I think Man United might have his eyes on them, might have their eyes on him, but I also think they might want to go for a bigger caliber of manager. It's not bigger caliber, like a bigger name, shall we say, with someone like Luis Enrique leaving PSG at the end of the season. They might try and look for a massive name like that. No disrespect to Iriola, but Luis Enrique, one of the best managers in the world, period. So where he goes, I'm sure it'll be interesting to see. I'd hope it doesn't end up where Saudi Arabia just come along and not Newcastle, but just take it to the Saudi League, or he heads off to somewhere like that. But I don't think he will. I think he's got another Prem job in him, or if not, definitely a high quality continental job at somewhere. Like if Conte leaves Napoli, maybe Iriola at Napoli. That would be a match I'd love to see. See what he can do with Scott McTominay and Kevin De Bruyne under Iriola would be filthy to watch. So yeah, but lots of different options. But I think Bournemouth fans probably saw this coming after there wasn't really much talk about his renewal.
Okay, Mikey, thank you. I was going to throw something out here. I think both Chelsea and Man United could be a potential option. And I know Chelsea haven't long had Rosenior, but let's say they continue on this losing streak. Really, has he got any credibility in the bank? I know that people like him, but I don't think he's got much credibility to say, look, I deserve to be here next season. And I know that will sound incredibly harsh, but ultimately he hasn't done a lot. Ultimately, he's taken them backwards. He will say otherwise. He can use any stat he wants. I listen to him and think, are you out your depth? Although you might have the right idea in terms of things like team bonding, are you right for a big club? I'm not totally convinced if I had to add my opinion. But if Man United don't go with Carrick, I think Iriola would definitely be their other contender. He definitely gets a job, boom, like that if he wants it. Matt, anything to add on this? And how Bournemouth cope after losing Iriola, and they could use top players as well they already have, such as Krupi and potentially Scott, and it could be a big turnover for Bournemouth like we're seeing now with Crystal Palace.
Look, I kind of liken it to how Brighton operate, in that it doesn't matter what manager they have, they'll always be decent in the Premier League because of their recruitment. Bournemouth's recruitment has been incredible, and I think it's very similar to Brighton in a way. But I honestly think Ariola will go to Man United. I think he'll go to Man United. He'll bring Alex Scott with him, and I think he'll bring that Truffet or that Truffet guy, and make Man United very good. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you very, very much. And that wraps up then nicely for this episode of the Scarfey Talks Premier League podcast. Thank you to everyone that's listened and got involved. We had a few in the chat throughout. Thank you very much. This podcast is currently just on YouTube, but it'll be on audio platforms very, very soon. Firstly, Matt, as an Arsenal fan, thank you very much for your time. Where can people follow you across social media?
I am just AFC Matex with 2 X's on Twitter.
Fantastic stuff. Matt, thank you for your time. Really do appreciate it. Mikey, thank you as well for coming on. Where can people follow you on the socials? It's great to have you both as podcast regulars.
So you can find me, again, it's the at's under my name, but if you're listening on an audio platform, congratulations on making it an hour and 15 minutes through. And secondly, you can find me at my surname, Mikey Kuhanoyan, on Instagram and X.
Lovely stuff. Great stuff. Longer than we expected, but we covered some good stuff. So thank you very much. And a big thanks to those that stepped in and hosted in my absence as I was on holiday last week and the week before in John Sinclair and Martin Frank. Big up. A lot of time for both of them. So thank you very much. And thank you for supporting them for hosting as well. But for now, thank you very much. Until the end of the week, we'll see you. We'll be previewing Game Week 33. Hey, cheers, guys.